The first Quad ministerial meeting of Australia, India, Japan and the United States since Donald Trump took office was held on Tuesday. A joint statement released after the meeting confirmed that officials from the four nations will meet regularly in the coming months to prepare for the next Leaders Summit, which will be hosted by India. The meeting, hosted by US Secretary of State Marco Rubio on his first day in office, saw foreign ministers from all four countries, as you can see on your screens, reaffirming their opposition to any unilateral actions aimed at changing the status quo through force or coercion. Now, their statement also emphasized their shared commitment to a free and open Indo-Pacific, reflecting concerns over China's expanding influence in the region. Well, with Trump beginning his second term, analysts suggest countering China will be a key focus. But for further clarity, we have with us live from Washington, D.C., Voice of America's correspondent Jessica Stone joining us. Thanks so much, Jessica, for making time for us on NDTV. Jessica,
good to be with you.
Is the Quad's strategy likely to change under this renewed leadership? And how do the Quad nations actually fit into Trump's broader foreign policy?
Well, I think your assessment is right that this is really about countering China. And actually, I think one of the things we'll be looking for over time is whether Marco Rubio, who has a very anti-China, hawkish stance on China, continues to sharpen the focus of the Quad on countering China. You know, it's sort of been implicit but not explicit as a goal of these four countries. And one of the things I'm watching for is how explicit he will make it over time. Certainly, this is very significant. This is the first bilateral meeting that this Secretary of State had. And almost hours after taking office, he held these meetings all afternoon here in Washington, D.C. with these three other countries and their foreign ministers. And the discussions were wide-ranging, open, stable, and prosperous Indo-Pacific being the goal of those talks. And we know that deepening cooperation in the commercial sense, the security sense, are all part of that. And as well, I would add that what we got from Australia is an even finer point than we heard from the minister from India, which is, we quote, also strongly oppose any unilateral actions that seek to change the status quo by force or coercion. That is a phrase we often see in the statements after these meetings, and it certainly does give us a sense of them talking about China and Taiwan in particular.
Jessica, thanks so much for taking us through all the details. Do stay on with us for the next update. But before that, we have with us Glenn Carl, former CIA officer, to also shed light on it from an intelligence perspective. Thank you so much, Glenn Carl, for joining us. Now, from an intelligence perspective, how do you assess the significance of the Quad's growing collaboration in the Indo-Pacific, especially in light of China's expanding presence in the region?
Well, as the person just before us said quite accurately, the Quad has always been an amorphous, soft approach, nascent organization, which the Russians and the Chinese have immediately denounced as a nascent NATO in Asia. And the indications are that happily is sort of becoming an accurate characterization. This meeting seems to have come out with statements that went clearly in the direction of a strategic relationship rather than one that restricts itself to coordinating pharmaceutical distribution or supply chain efficiencies. So Rubio is an internationalist in the Republican Party, as opposed to his president. So there will be a clash there probably, but this was an affirmation of the strategic direction that certainly the US and Australia have wanted, and Japan have wanted the Quad to go. And India has, without saying so, grudgingly, slowly, and then increasing enthusiastically going along with.
Right. But so with Trump's second term now underway, how do you anticipate his approach to national security will evolve, if at all, particularly in regard to China and the Quad? Any specific actions might we expect in terms of intelligence operations or policy?
Yes, well, I think all of us who watch Trump know that he doesn't really have a lot of beliefs. He has sort of emotional positions, reflexive positions. However, There is one philosophical position that he has been consistent with his whole public life, and that is he is an isolationist. And he is a mercantilist who likes to make bilateral deals. Now, that approach and his hostility to multilateral organizations in general will undermine America's traditional alliances, and that would run against strengthening the Quad. But his hostility to China would go more in the direction that Marco Rubio seems to have started to take things today.
Right.
I think we can look for clear bilateral deals. He'll say something to Mr. Modi like, well, you can't send we aren't going to take any more of your engineers and scientists unless you buy more military aviation parts or something to that effect.
Right.
So it will be transactional and not multilateral.
Well, transactional is something that Trump has sort of been known for, lending to his first term. But thank you so much, sir, for joining us on NDTV. Really appreciate your time, Glenn Carr.